Good morning everybody and welcome back into building Lego Hyrule Castle Breath of the Wild thing in Lego minifigure scale week 16, where every week or every time we do this our intro gets more confused. Today we are back over in the end of the lockout and I have just finished up a stream about an hour ago. Now don't worry, for those of you that watched the stream or didn't watch the stream, you can go and watch it again, and I won't be sharing everything that we did in that stream in this video today. I'm going to be spreading them out as they're relevant, but I was pretty excited about this one, understandably so. This was the rock work for the outside of the prison Hylian shield room is what it's called. My brain got stuck for a second there. And this is actually a not quite full height plate that is now completely done on the outside. Rockwork comes up flush to the top of the arena, and the reason we're doing this is because today is all about expanding the roof for the prison and getting that completely done, as well as a couple other little surprises along the way. So I wanted to show you this. But I immediately got straight to work on something much more exciting than another rockwork piece. So we're not going to dwell here at all. We're going to move straight on to something much more exciting. Look at this much more exciting piece of rockwork. I mean, I told you it was so much better, right? No, I'm joking. This was one of the last things I needed to do. We are preparing, obviously, for the next layer. So this layer of castle that we're doing is going to have a wall sat on top of it. And in order to build that wall, we need to do a big plate. And to do that plate, we need to have the edging around the top here. So it was important to get the full length up to the correct height and then tile it off. And this yellow marker here is actually my rough estimate for where this plate ends. So it comes all the way along, and you'll see it in a minute because we built it. It comes all the way along and curves around like this. It's going to be a big circle, and it ends here because there's actually another increase in walls which we'll be working on in the future, meaning that I don't have to worry about it. So I had to do more rock work after doing a stream of rock work, so that was fun. Anyway, it's good to have it done. It's good to be finished. We'll be doing the other half of the plate eventually, but I'm not fussed because that starts to take us off in a completely different direction onto more plates that I don't really want to do now. So I think we're going to leave it. However, more importantly, it does mean that we're almost ready to do our big plate that we started a couple of weeks back. We've just got one more little area which it's going to attach to that we've got to take a look at, and that is our pond. And our pond looks as confusing as ever, and this is actually the plate we're going to be working on today. This is J1. This one sits on top of the prison and of course the Hinox room at the end of the lockup, and we are going to be extending it backwards today. So it's sort of hard to show. You'll see again in a minute, but it's going to extend out in a big circle, and the plate we were just looking at is like over here on the other side of the prison, and this little gap here is where it attaches to the wall at a previous level, and we'll be dealing with that as well. But what I needed to do is, when we saw this prison, or should I say this lake last week, I had done the surface area and I'd started the slope up. What I've done now is I've completely finished in all the sides up to the full plate height layer. So for those of you who know, obviously this is lower and this is the end height of the ground floor. So we've built all of that up to this level, which is actually really positive as far as just general improvements to the castle go. I mean, it's really great to finally have this up to level. I can't wait to start sloping upwards, although that will mean doing more Technic frames, which I have a feeling I have had enough of by the end of today. But we've got some other heights here, of course. We've got the main height that curves all the way around here, and then we've got this half height, which is this part here, which is where this Technic frame, when it expands, is going to rest on. It's going to act as a little support ledge, and then it means that it will come flush up to here, and then on top of this new green plate, the wall will continue upwards to this height, where in fact there is yet another slab of land which will be stuck down. I wouldn't worry about the gaps down here. They're just random slopes and stuff. It's just to keep the file nice and small and keep everything manageable. I had to delete them, hide them away, and move them back to their own separate files. However, again, that's a very minor thing in comparison to trying to show you and understand it. So I hope that's not too confusing. Anyway, nothing's actually changed on J1 since we last saw it. I just wanted to update you guys on the pond. I am a tad concerned about how straight this wall feels. However, I think I'm being subconsciously tricked bricked by the tiles here, and when we attach a new plate and these two curve together and backwards, and we've got sort of this little like lip into a rockwork here, I'm hoping it will feel a lot more curvy, but there's also some stuff we can do with some inverted slopes and so on to try and help with that as well. So fingers crossed it isn't too bad. However, there's no way to know until we actually get on and do it. However, that's what we're going to be doing. Next couple of weeks we're going to start building up the slope. Obviously this will then go over the docks. I appreciate this is very hard to follow, but without further ado, that's not our job today. We want to smack a roof on that prison, and that is what I'm going to do. So help me, no matter long how it takes. And welcome to the happy haunt, or should I say a ghost file? This is J1. I sort of did it. I was going to stop halfway and show you, but then I sort of got in the momentum. You see, as I come closer, it all becomes much more familiar to us. But I like this view. I think it's cool to see the ghost of the castle and see how big it is. In fact, you can see stuff like the Hinox room, and then of course the new plates that we did. However, I'm going to come out the mood to give us context for just a second before we focus in on what I've actually done. But one of the things that we will notice about this model is its position. So you'll be familiar with this. This has got some additions that we'll take a look at in a minute from our stream. This is one of the wall segments we've been working on recently, and actually in here is the prison entrance. Now, more specifically, we're focusing on this slab. This slab is the one we just saw over here. You saw those pink pieces and you saw it slope up around the pond. And now the big thing is that it's finished. We've got all of the basic tiling done. So firstly, down here by the pond, you would have talked about that lip. It's now all filled in with some more rock work to make things look just a tad more consistent, although it's a bit flat for my liking. And that means that it all blends in seamlessly, and our rock work will continue over here. I'm hoping I've given some context as to where this plate is in the castle, or like what it actually looks like. If not, images on your screen. And it is basically just a flat rock. There's some more interesting stuff happening towards the back, and obviously our wall segment is going to continue all the way across this one. But the big thing is this was basically a big grind. We've got all of the rock work around the edges, and as you guys will be aware by now, if we go inside and start taking the top off, this is all just pink Technic frames. Pink obviously because, well, it's a colour that none of these pieces exist in, meaning I can buy them in whatever colour I want when I put them into Bricklink one day in the future. And then this pink always attaches into these dark bluish grey using these Technic bricks with pin attachments that then can sit on the plates and tiles, and then they're sandwiched in between all the plates, and obviously there'll be a green layer on top and all of that. Try and add as much detail as you can, and this comes all the way over to the end of the Z plate, which is that little half plate that we did, and that is because the rest of this Z plate will be going up to full height, like above the pond, and then our wall will be going across. And we're going to do some markings. I'm going to show you those now. And these markings are sort of marking out what's going to happen on this new slab, and obviously that won't be happening today. So this blue line, if you trace it across, this is our cliff line. It is in a sense, the next full height section. So it's actually the edge of this plate. So there's a little bit extra around here just in case I want it for supports and so on. However, this is the actual cliff line that's going to go up to the same height as this stuff you see around the back of the pond. It's going to curve all the way around and along until you get to this side here where you've got this yellow, and this is sort of marking where I'm going to slope. So on the outside of the walls there's sort of this gradual slope up to this point of the blue where it reaches the full height of the next plate, and we're going to just do another grassy slope that comes up the side here. To blend in the terrain, give it a little bit more interest. So the chances are some of this rock work will be redone as we start to work out what I can actually do and what needs to be grass and so on. The red lines are the next wall segment, and you will see that they line up pretty well with the old one. And this purple square is where an actual watchtower was. You would have seen that on our image, and we're going to be adding that. Hopefully just copy and pasting the one from the previous one that we've done, and then just slapping it on there. And then all of this will be grassland. I'm hoping there's a couple of trees, you know, make it a little bit more interesting. This segment pretty much hasn't changed, and this is actually the full side of this plate. I didn't want to make it any bigger because then I thought it'd be really difficult to maneuver and so on, so we're going to stick with this for now. I think it's definitely the best way of doing it. And this one's really, really important because this actually allows us to do way more interesting interior stuff, because obviously you've got the prison, so I should call it the lockup, all under here. It sort of caps it off, flattens it, and then allows us to build on top of it. And obviously above this blue line there's actually a third tier with yet another watchtower and so on. And oh, castle, you guys know the deal. Anyway, this is basically just the next segment of stuff we get to build on. The further this way we go, it means we start to get doing stuff like the West Passage, although that will be a lot more rock work, so I don't know if I want to go that way. Either way, it's a big deal, despite literally just being a flat piece of bricks. Now, I mentioned the interesting curve here. However, this model, or making this segment, did bring up one or two more interesting things. Firstly, which we'll be talking about in a minute, is this is a big gap for this thing not to be supported on. In fact, there's no support for it in this corner at all. And actually, we're going to be fixing that in just a minute, because the prison segments do not come as high as the Hinox room. The Hinox room is lucky enough to come right to the top and act as a perfect support. However, the prison doesn't come high enough, so we've got to fix that, and I'll be showing you how I'm going to do that later on. But more importantly, and perhaps more pressingly, is that I realised something about the E1 plate that you can see is fixed here. But we're going to go take a closer look at that now to realise what was wrong. And let me tell you, it comes down to the way the wall connects. They look very similar to the untrained eye, but this is our original E1 plate straight after we finished the stream the other week. Now, what we're going to be looking at specifically is how it attaches here to the rockwork, and this is not what you just saw in the other file. The original version of E1 came in at a perfect right angle and stuck straight on the studs, and this was its attachment point, and then it curves off. So this is on grid, as you would call it, completely straight and lined up. However, if we look at our source material, the wall's not straight. So it was sort of a big deal, because on the next plate, if I continued it, it would either be a straight line and look really, really boring, or I could modify this end to make sure it comes in at an angle so we get a slight curve, which is what you saw on the plotting diagram we did just a minute ago. So that was one thing that I needed to change. I also added a bench and a load of flowers on stream, and I still really like their addition, but I made the foolish comment of saying that this bench faced out to sea. This bench does not face out to sea. This bench faces a wall, and I will show you that in a minute. Bear in mind it's practically on this side. This bench stares directly inland at the castle. I don't know what I was thinking. It has the worst view in the entire castle. So the bench is moving too, but that should be made easier because we're going to shorten the wall. And I'm really, really hoping this is easy so that I don't have to destroy all of my flowers. Okay, so sort of halfway through, and we're gonna just update you on what's happening. So the bench hasn't moved yet. This is its original position, which does look absolutely awful, by the way, just completely on the end of the cliff. The first thing you'll notice is the wall used to come out right to here. It doesn't anymore. It's been shortened because I've removed 2 segments. So I kept all the angles the same. I've just bored it in, and if I do like a top down here, you can see that whereas it came in completely straight, it's now coming in at about a 30-degree angle, so it will sort of trail off like this and then can be redirected to straight before it gets to the main tower over on this segment. Now, how are we actually going to do that? Because at the moment it looks like I'm still just going to straighten it out again. Well, you would be wrong at the moment. So I'm going to fill in all the gaps in a future week, but basically what we're going to do is we're just sort of going to continue this wall segment out to about the same length as this one, like an 8 segment above the tiles here, because they line up perfectly, meaning that from this brick and up I can just go zoom in straight along the top. The thing is, we needed to finish J1 first so that I know what part of the rockwork on J1 I've got to destroy, and so on. They've all got to blend together, so that's something for whenever we decide to do the wall on J1. It will just be a little bit of an inconvenience, however nothing too bad. I don't think it will be too difficult, but basically it means the wall segments will zoom on over each other, and all will be right with the world. Now, one thing we do have to be careful of, and I mean really, really be careful of, is the connections between them, because J1, the plate that's going to sit on top, has to lift off before E1, because, well, logic, you can't take the bottom plate off before the top plate, meaning however these walls interact is going to have to be pretty clever to avoid, well, to make them secure, but and flush and make sure that the walls all line up, but without like ripping each other off when they pull apart. And we'll talk about that when we actually build it. I'm hoping it's going to be easier than it sounds, because let's face it, it doesn't sound very easy. Luckily, I haven't had to destroy my flowers, so I'm happy with this. It means I can get rid of the original E1 segment. Now I've shown it to you, and let's just fill in a couple of the holes and then move this bench as well, and then we can move on to, I completely forgot, I'm showing you renders today. I've taken some renders of the castle. You don't want to miss these. So we'll be doing some renders at the end of the video to see what the castle's coming out like. They're not the most up to date, but they're pretty good. I think they're well worth seeing because it gives you an idea of all the plates together. It's going to be one of the very few times we can do that in this series. Anyway, let's do some more detailing. Miraculously, it looks almost unchanged. However, that would be a lie. It's taken me a decent part of an hour. The bench is exactly the same with our scrolls on the side going along, and then also it's perfectly lining up now. It was round here, right? So it was facing this way. The view isn't much better, but at least you technically from here get a view of the shipping lane. The docks will be over here, the boats going in and out. I like it better. Obviously, ideally, you'd put it on this side, but I'm not doing that, so that's fine. It's better off. You've got the aqua flowers going up the wall, of course. None of this has changed. This is all the same as before. Some of this was stream decorated. We added like more of like a wildlife reserve, we're calling it. So you've got your trimmed gardens and your meadows, but we wanted this to be sort of like a nature walk or something. So we tried to add some cute details and stuff. As one of the big things with this castle is because it's pre-calamity and we don't have that much reference to go off, we're going to have to do a lot of filling in the gaps ourselves, and part of that is coming up with small canonical uses for the small spaces, like, was that pond the royal fishing pond? Was it sacred or something? I want to have all these little stories for all the rooms in the castle because no one has a model of the castle like this, and this is our chance to really make it shine and show what's going on. As for around the back and the connections, I haven't done any more. I just wanted to re-illustrate what I meant. Look at that. I mean, this is not how it's going to work, obviously, because there's a plate in the way. But the brick wall is just going to continue onwards for a little bit and then continue to curve to a straight line up on the next plate, because that's how this works. So I'm pretty pleased with the modification. It's really delayed my progress for today. I wanted to do the wall segment for Jay, but I'm completely out of time because this was an unprecedented setback. So I want to talk to you now about gaps and support, because gravity is a thing in this model. So let's go back and have a look at the underside of J1. I mentioned it briefly earlier, and this thing does look a bit like a mess now, but sort of you can judge where we are. Earlier we talked about, well, we've just made the big giant plate that slaps on top of this whole exposed area here, which is why it's so huge that it covers up what it does cover up. But more importantly, we talked about how while the Hinox room was completely flush with the cliff edge it's going to sit on and will provide important support for this new module to sit on and be supported and be like, well, not sagging in the middle. We also talked about how the prison was significantly lower down, which is what you can see here. So I wanted to show you the way I'm going to solve that problem and why you're not going to see it solved in any of these videos. So my method of solving them is these bricks here. They're designed to be strong but spaced out and stable, like filler bricks that can easily be removed. So you can see here, the plan is for any ceiling that I don't want to stretch up to the top of a plate, we will be using these plates here, the modified tiles with 2 studs, and then these giant briquettes, as I'm calling them, and they will straddle the roof, sit on like this, and then provide an area of actual structural support straight through to the ground for any plates above. Now the reason we've done this is one, because I don't want to design custom roofs for all of these interiors. It's not worth it. You literally never see them. 2, we need the support, and we want it to be as removable as possible, because otherwise, again, you'll never see the interiors that we put a lot of work into, and I want these things to be removable. Say one day it was ever taken to a convention, you want it to be modular, pull it all apart, and not have giant like built-in structures in the way in the middle of your interiors. And then 3, we chose this method is because it means they can be spaced out. Not every inch of this plate has to be supported, just in a key couple of locations. Obviously for area like this, there'll be a lot of filler brick pillars and supports linked into the back of these walls to make sure they stay strong, and these tiles potentially will change and be thicker and so on. And obviously in this areas like this is fine, you can have gaps. But for areas over interiors in particular, we want to make sure that these things are strong, and these briquettes, which can be easily removed to show you in the inside, but also will provide crucial support our key. And the fact that they attach to jumpers in a sense makes them really, really removable. So you can see here, these longer ones, they might straddle archways. They can be any colours you want because they're just removable. They're not part of the model. And they've just got to make sure that they themselves are stable, and then you're fine. But I think it was an important thing to address because up until this point, we haven't had to worry about that. These aren't the final designs. I'm not sure they're even the right height, actually. I think they might actually be too tall, which is awkward. I wasn't expecting that. That's a bit awkward, actually. Let's not worry about that. That's fine. If I do this, you can actually see. Yeah, no, they're way too tall. I don't know how I made them too tall. I wouldn't question it. Yeah, the supports. You know what? Let's just get rid of these. Let's just remove them. Anyway, it was a proof of concept. It shows you guys what my plan is. But now, most excitingly for the day, we are going to take a look at some renders. So let me bring one up on your screen for you. This is the model so far. Now, obviously, because these renders took so long to do, these were done a couple of weeks ago. So since the last episode, because I can see Baby Hunox in his room in the corner, but obviously J1 hasn't been completed, which is a tad unfortunate, but you know, it's unavoidable. At some point I've got to do these renders, and because they take so long to do, it's just a matter of choosing when I want to fit them in, and unfortunately the J1 progress has been so recent to me recording this that it didn't happen, but I don't know what I'm saying. Regardless, look how cool it is. It's so big. Look how it contrasts with the blue water, with the black underneath. That's going to be really expensive, by the way, because blue tiles in the UK, horrific. The wall segments now with texturing just look simply wonderful. The plants and the green bring it so much to life. And you forget that there's just completely giant interiors on the inside of all of this. The cave mouth looks great. In fact, you can even see the new bench position, how it looks over this sort of bay. Oh, you know, if you need something to reinvigorate in a project, this is it. It's simply wonderful, and it just shows you how they all mesh in together, which is also fantastic. I'm almost tempted. I think we'll do another one of these in just a couple of weeks, I think I'm going to say, when we do a couple more outside plates. If we finished off Z1 and added the wall to J1, and then and did a couple more bits around the outside, we could have a complete view of this ground floor segment, as well as maybe some upper. It could expand so much. But it's not the only render I did. I did 3. So here is our second one. This is the top-down look, because I thought this was very interesting, because this is basically my map that I work off, right? Like, it shows you how all the plates connect together, and all of the floor plan. And, you know, I think it just sells the modular aspect of how this is all going to work, which I think is very clever. And actually, you're getting a spoiler there for something that's coming, or something that you've already seen on stream. So, please come back next week, even though you've seen that. But no, you can see all the plates. You can see the E1 plate. Obviously, this was before it was modified. And obviously, actually, I think it's nice that J1 isn't finished for this one, because it means you can see inside all the rooms, like the Hinox room and the little gaps, the prison, the lockup and the corridors into the new room at diagonal. You've got the docks. You've got this gorgeous blue color. I don't know why I love it so much in Studio's renders, but I just do. And you can actually see A1. A1, the first plate we did with that wall segment, looks tiny in comparison to the new one we've just done, which is just insane. Like, it's so insane how the scale of this model's going, and how big it's getting, and how quickly as well. Like, it has grown so much in 16 weeks, and considering we'd barely started the prison by like week 8, it's shocking that we've done like 6 plates in 8 weeks, like full plates, and they've been incredibly detailed and incredibly in depth as well. Not to mention we were doing bits on the other side. So much. It's just, I love this castle. I just cannot wait for it to come together faster, please. And then thirdly, we have the in-house image, as I want to call it. This is sort of like taking a step inside the MOC. This is if you were approaching the castle from, say, a boat, and you can see all of how the landscapes interact, and even the rockwork looks so varied up close. You can see the cave around the corner. I don't know why those plates are floating. Just ignore them, please. You can see the slope going up around the top, and how it's all shadowy because of the cliffs. You've got the trees. You've got the entrance for docks. It genuinely looks like a miniature. It's simply wonderful. I particularly love this one because you can't see any of the floors. You can't see the outside. And you know what? You can actually see that the tower at this point hadn't even been textured. This one I did a while back. But it's just, oh, it's stunning. It's so stunning. I'm happy with this project. Every time I see it, I keep getting reinvigorated. I want to go build more now, but I've got to go build wave 4 instead. Castle. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video and have got something out of it. It's been a bit of a long one, a bit of a waffly one, but I'm glad I managed to make content out of the plates, and you guys got to watch me suffer with changing the wall segment that went wrong. Next week, we will be starting that new interior room, which if you watched one of the streams, you will have already seen some of, but we'll be adding lots of new stuff, as well as starting these slopes upwards, maybe some walls and all kinds of different bits. I'm definitely looking to start rapidly expanding in all directions once I get the brain hurt under control. I want to go up as well. I want to go everywhere. I want to get the castle done. I know it's a vague goal. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments down below, as well as your suggestions of things to add to the castle and story. Please give me your lore suggestions for the little bits of grass you've seen, or the rooms that aren't identified, or purposes of corridors. Of course, when the model's finished, all of these will be properly done. And eventually subscribe, because when we get to a point where there's some hidden little areas, we'll be doing some fan rooms, which will be designed by you guys, maybe either submitted online or submitted to me through ideas or streams. So stop by, stick around. And double check out the pinned comment as well for an update on to what's happening with the channel. So I have a wonderful day, everybody, and I will see you